Girls on Tour is a book club that aims to keep us connected while shining a light on some badass women and gender diverse people within the entertainment industry. Touring can be incredibly boring and sometimes very isolating. Having stories to connect over can make us feel close no matter how far apart we are. My freak. Man, we belong.
Let's go there.
Your highlights are loading.
Highlight.
I would like to welcome you all. Cheers to me finally getting my way and getting a romance book.
You did it.
And I never thought I'd say that because up until like a year, just over a year ago, I had never read romance books ever. And then we were in a bookstore. I was looking for a book that was like spooky vampire shit. So I thought it was going to be in fantasy. And I was like, I can't find it anywhere. And you were like, I think it's in romance. And I was like, there's a romance section? Because I spent a lot of my life being a pick-me girl. Being a, I'm not like other girls, I'm friends with the boys girl. So I never got into romance books when I was younger, like an idiot.
Wasted so much time.
And then we went into the romance section and then it consumed my life for 11 months. And that is because we're going to get into rants about the value and the importance of romance novels and of the history of why they have been looked down upon and all of the things. We're going to get into it.
God.
But in that journey, I very quickly found today's author, Elsie Silver.
Elsie.
Elsie writes Yeehaw Cowboy Romance.
Yes,
and
she
it is delicious.
It is delicious.
Since then, I've been doing like high fantasy, smooth brain romance read because it doesn't take a lot of brain to read romances because it's in the real world and we all know what's going on. You're not learning a world build. The world's built. We're in it. We're living it. We're loving it.
Well, it's built, is what it is.
The only thing that then matters is your interaction with characters, which is the thing that I enjoy the most out of books. So it's the easiest for me to read. Elsie Silver, I devoured every book that she's written very quickly. And then she recently released this new one that we've been reading called Wild Love. Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. But before we get into it, who are you?
Who are we?
Who are we?
My name is Monique. If this is your first time here, welcome to the Girls on Tour book club. We read predominantly like fantasy books, but we're taking a bit of a detour into romance for a hot second. We'll see how we like it. Let us know how you like it. Let us know whether you enjoyed the book. Let us know whether you hate it. We'll never do one again. The reason I wanted to do a romance is because the point of romance is just like kick your feet escapism. And the point of the book club is also escapism.
Escapism.
It's for those of us who are not able to get to an in-life real book club, not real, but an in the real life book club. It's not attainable to you for whatever reason, which that applies to a lot of us, I think. But you still want to enjoy that community. You still want the escapism around it, all of the things. So that's why we do this book club. I work in a job where I'm away a lot. I work as a sound engineer touring in musical theatre at the moment. So I am away 90% of the year. I am away, not with my family, not with my friends. I get to come home for like 2-week periods every 2 months is the vibe. And books have been so incredibly grounding, and having this book club has meant that I have really fun things to talk to my friends about that are casual and not just about work or about hard things that we might be going through, which has been amazing. But that's who I am, and this is what this is, and this is BB.
I am BB. My name is Bryony, but you can call me BB. I am a marriage celebrant. I love books also, and I love romance books, and I'm here today to talk about this. I also love that we do book club in this way because even though I talk in front of people all the time, like I'm in front of crowds of people that I've never met before all the time, it is really nice to be able to still have an online community, an online space when your brain is just not feeling like being in a space with other people. Like you can still communicate, you can still have that community vibe, but you can do it from the comfort of your own home, which I really appreciate as well. Let's get into it.
Okay. So I was ready to get feral for this as well because when we saw the announcement for this book, one of the main characters is a producer, like a music producer, and he's opening a recording studio. So I immediately went, I'm in this and this is about me. Obviously.
I am the main character and that is crazy.
I'm going to see myself in this. We follow Ford, who is the brother to Willa, which if you've read the other Elsie Silver series like Chestnut Springs, she does the thing that romance books or series will do a lot where it's like series, but that you don't need to read them in order for there to be a specific plot point. It's just like there's a connecting community and at some point you'll explore everybody's stories, which is the only place that makes sense.
Yeah.
So Chestnut Springs is one. There's also another one which is the Gold Rush Ranch, which was her first one. Chestnut Springs is a family of like a dad and all of his sons, and the sister, the daughter in that family, is over in the Gold Rush Ranch. So that's how those are connected. This one is connected because Willa is part of the Chestnut Springs part and Ford is her brother. That's how we get the connection. But they're all set in different places. This one is set in Rose Hill.
And it's in Canada.
Is it?
They're all in Canada, I think. Yeah. Because when I first started reading them, I was like, Texas? And then I was like, oh, no, these are Canadian people.
A lot of like American trope vibes in it still though. Like a lot of people in the military, veterans. I'm sure if we looked into Elsie Silver, she'd have veterans in her family, because that and the way that it impacts relationships comes up a lot.
In the Gold Rush Ranch one?
Yeah. And in the other one too.
This is a spoiler-free part.
So this one we follow Ford. He started in uni, high school, whatever. He is the son of like a very famous guitar player, but that's not his personality. He ends up starting a music platform when he's in college, whatever. Yeah. And then that turns also into a music venue. In the end, he works in music, but he ends up becoming a billionaire.
Let's just preface this with billionaires in real life, disgusting, go and die. Billionaires in books, yeah. Use your money for good, if you know what I'm saying.
I think Elsie did us like a fan service billionaire treatment in this book, because the whole time he's like, I didn't mean to become a billionaire. I never wanted to be a billionaire. I just love my music. Like he has all of the wealth without the multi-generational, my daddy gave me this money billionaire vibe. Because as soon as a book is like, oh, a billionaire, I'm like, ugh.
Get out
of my face. We follow him. He's just moved back to Rose Hill, where he used to spend summers growing up as a kid, and he's bought a property there where he's turning it into like a house that he lives in, and then this big recording studio situation that people can stay in and just come and record albums and ride out in the country and detach from the city, which honestly, my dreams, my literal dreams. So he's in the process of like reconverting these spaces and like setting up this recording studio and all that kind of stuff. He has a best friend from childhood who lives there close by, West, and West's younger sister, Rosie.
Or Rosalie is her full name.
She has just come back to town because she's been living in the city working a job that she wasn't happy in. She just did the things she thought she was meant to do, which as someone from a small town, it hit home of like, I need to get out of this town. I need to achieve all of these dreams. And you become attached to the idea of like what you are meant to achieve. But she talks in it, and I think I saved a quote about it of like, I'm now running for a prize that I don't even care about. She's not happy. She's got what she wanted and she's not happy.
She's not happy in her work. She's not happy in her home life, like her partner. Everything is just not working out, and then something happens that really pushes her to go home. Like she needs to be at home.
And so she comes back home. They see each other again after both having heinous crushes on each other when they were growing up, but very much being like that, oh, it's my best friend's little sister. This is just how their relationship kind of unfolds and what happens. And also Ford finds out, oop, he's a dad.
Surprise single dad.
Surprise single dad. And that's all we're going to say.
This one was a little spicy.
Wasn't it, Jazz?
This is not super spicy for us. This is super spicy for the podcast.
We've never read a book that has like blatant sexual scenes in it.
And we've talked about smutty things before on the old pod, but knowing that everyone's reading this, stop.
That's the soapbox I stand on when I start to come to romance. And knowing that we were pitching this book to people to read, and knowing that there are younger women who are part of the book club who are like, 17, 18, I still felt comfortable pitching a book like this, because when I was growing up, I was reading the most heinous of things. I was reading books that had such icky depictions of sex and romance, because that's what we had available at the time. They were not healthy depictions of a safe sexual relationship. And that is what I grew up reading. It's what we grow up seeing in media, in movies, in porn, all the time. And I wish that I had been reading things that had positive sexual relationships in them. I think it would have given me the confidence as a young person to be like, ooh, actually, I know what this is meant to look like, and it's not this. Or I'm feeling pressured in this situation, but I know that a book character that I read about, this is what she did. Because you don't always feel comfortable talking to people about that stuff. I think more positive depictions of sex and relationships are nothing but a good and positive thing for young people to be consuming.
Truly. And then you think about it from the angle of women's sexuality has been a taboo subject for millennia. Women have not ever been able to be outwardly sexual, have like sexual thoughts, feelings, ideas, blah, blah,
But they're also not allowed to not be sexual, because if their husbands want sex, they need to have sex with them.
It's as if there's this weird double standard that women are not allowed to be sexual, but we have to be available to be sexualized.
Oh,
Pop that on a poster, bitch.
I expect to get kicked in the heart so soon into this
Because
episode.
even if you think about women's stories and books, like publishing wise, right? That back in the day, Mills and Boon, like the dirty words of publishing is like women's books. And they would have like the Harlequin covers where the front would be like a normal cover and then you'd open the inside cover and it'd be a sexy little thing.
Let's
bring
bring
that
those
back, please. Like,
Thank you.
and it was always pushed to the back
Yeah.
of the bookstore, and it was these things that weren't counted as real literature or like real books because they were like porn for women.
Yeah, the perception of romance as a genre says everything about how people feel about women. Because it's something that women like, and people just fucking love to shit on the things that women like. Anything that women like, people are like, that's dumb, it's lame, blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry. You as a grown man exclusively read books about spaceships.
Yeah.
But I'm reading books about actual human relationships.
And being treated
I'm
correctly.
the child? Like, are you joking? They
let's
kiss in
little
this.
sit.
None of your characters are kissing.
What is that about, huh?
What is that about?
They're battling, but where's the kissing?
I think we still do it as well. When I say like a smooth brain little romance read, I don't mean because they're not well written, great stories with really, really wonderful characters. I mean smooth brain because it doesn't take a lot for me to take it in.
And we can sit there and we can enjoy it without having to think about, you know,
The world building
world
and the
of-
magic system and the, yeah.
Exactly. It's smooth brain because we can actually just sit there and enjoy it and not have to think about the things that are going on in our life in the outside world because it's this tiny little pocket of loveliness that we get to sit in for however long it takes you to read a book.
But it's been shat upon so viciously because it was always an escape for women to be reading romance novels and books that had sex in them or that celebrated sexual pleasure as being something for women. Which was not allowed for so fucking long. And it's something that I will get on my soapbox for every time.
Every time. Well, there's that whole discussion on Book Talk at the moment about how people are saying Book Talk is ruining traditional publishing and all women want to do is like read porn and romance and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, and so what if we're ruining traditional publishing? Because mainly traditional publishing is straight white men.
Or women writing under men's names because they wouldn't get treated equally as women.
Truly. Like you think about most of Jane Austen's books were originally published under anonymous or under a different name because they were like, oh, no one's ever going to read this because it's a book written by a woman.
Maybe the issue
Piss
is
off.
traditional publishing.
So burn it to the ground. And that's my hot take.
The things that I have seen in especially like the recent run of romance books, like some of them I'm like, sweet Jesus, what is this? Bridgerton is everywhere at the moment. But if you go back and read those books,
the books are not great. Shonda Rhimes has really
popped her pussy on those.
She truly did. She looked at that and went, I see the bare bones of this and how good it can be, but let me just change it a little bit and make it actually good. And she did that for us.
Because, for example, like Kate and Anthony's story, which was season 2 of Bridgerton, big, strong enemies to lovers, two really strong characters who are just trying to take care of their families and end up falling in love, but they kind of hate each other, but it's hard. It's basically just sexual assault.
In the book?
Through the whole book, yeah. From what I've been told, I haven't actually read it.
Oh.
Caveat, I haven't actually read it. From what I'm told, it's that in the books, Colin only ever falls in love with Penelope because she gets skinny.
Let me fucking. Oh my God, I didn't know that. I think I knew the one about, I didn't know it was just because she was skinny. It was probably more than.
Yeah, but like he only gives her the time of day because she completely changes everything about herself.
And that's why I love the new season that all they did for Penelope and Nicola Coughlan
was make her wear green.
Put her in the colours that suit her, pull her hair off her face, like actually showed how beautiful she is. The second half of the season comes out tomorrow. So it'll be already out by the time everyone sees this. But I saw an interview with Nicola Coughlan where someone was like, and how do you feel about like you with a body like yours, blah, 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 because she's a mid-sized to plus-size person. And so people thought she was going to talk about that. She's like, people like me with really beautiful breasts, blah, blah, blah. And I was like,
I'm not represented in the.
But back to Kate and Anthony of the assault of it all. I am sick of sexual assault and rape being used as a plot point. I'm over it. I'm over it. Because why do you need to assault someone, usually a woman, to give her growth? I'm over it. There are so many ways to grow. Please stop assaulting us.
Or it's like so interesting that for so long, the perception of a woman's worth was impacted by being taken advantage of by somebody else. Getting assaulted by men and then being like, well, now you guys have to get married because her value's shit. And it's the honorable thing to do. Like Regency era craziness. That view of like very patriarchy, shitty views of women and sexuality has been very strong in books for a really long time. And I think recently in romance books, we are seeing a different kind of woman. We're seeing a different kind of love interest. We're seeing queer love represented. We're seeing people of all different shapes and sizes and colors represented in these love stories instead of it just being straight cis white women with mediocre shit cis straight white men in a relationship they shouldn't be in the first place.
The change up is actually being with love interests that actually care about the person as if they were a person.
Heard of.
Crazy. That's so crazy.
I specifically remember because one of the first books that I read romance-wise that you recommended to me was Icebreaker. And I remember getting actually emotional reading that book because, not really a spoiler, but there is a scene in that book where two characters, they're making out and they're like, she's like, I want to have sex. And he's like, no, because you're drunk. And he very much wants to have sex with her and they very much do at other points, but purely because she is too intoxicated, he says no. And I think so many people have the lived experience of things going too far when they're intoxicated. And when you are drunk, you cannot give consent.
Truly.
And you also do not get rolling over, ongoing, consistent consent for somebody or to touch them or to have sex with them or whatever just because it's happened before. And that comes up in real life constantly. So to see a scene like that where that was just what happened and he was like, no, you're drunk. Like, I'm not going to have sex with you. You can't consent right now. I honestly started crying.
And it wasn't a struggle for him to think that. Like, he didn't have to hold himself back or change his mindset. It was just like, oh, no, actually, this is as far as it goes.
She doesn't actually know if she wants this right now.
Yeah.
She's just being delulu.
And the bar is on the floor.
The bar is on the floor. The bar is in hell. But hopefully, with the normalizing of like positive relationships in media, the bar can come up just a little bit. Enough we can limbo under it at least. Like a limbo champion.
I need it to be a bit higher. I got a bad back. I can't get that. I can't get that far down.
But the book.
I think we're in spoiler time. It's ready for spoilers. So if you haven't read the book, go and do that now. And if you don't plan on reading it, well, that's your choice.
And you can listen to us yap about it then.
Yappin'.
Good eve, friends. When I first entered the entertainment industry as a tech, I often found that I had to let go of parts of myself as a feminine person in order to have space within the industry. And I felt like everywhere I went, I had to prove myself even harder than most of the other people who were in that space. I started making content around working in the entertainment industry in order to demystify and empower other people, especially young women and gender diverse people entering an industry that often hasn't had a lot of space for us. I create informative and entertaining, I hope, content around working in the entertainment industry, around the different kind of jobs that I've gotten, how I get them, and the lifestyle of touring and working in this industry, especially as a young woman. There will also be another part of book club that goes live on that channel. The non-fiction part of book club, which is aimed towards shining a light on women and gender diverse people within the entertainment industry, while reading a really cool book about some other badass people in the industry, will go live on my Monique Tech YouTube channel. You can find me on all the socials. You can find all of those socials and my website through the Girls Onto a Book Club. Cora is my queen. What an incredible little girl.
She rocks up and he's like, who the fuck are you? And she's like, your daughter,
your
dickhead.
Kid, idiot. Literally calls him a dickhead. And also like her family life situation of, for those who stuck around who don't care to read it, Ford, when he was 19, 20, donated sperm for money to get concert tickets, which...
Look, if I had sperm to donate, if Australia gave money for those donations, truly.
Her parents were older and were struggling to conceive. They ended up using a sperm donor, him, and now her father has passed away. He was sick most of her life. They were high school sweethearts. They both loved her so much. Great times. They passed away. Her mum is in a deep depression. But because he had done some kind of like ancestry thing, she was able to find him, to bring some reality into it. You would never be able to find a sperm donor like that. As far as I know, the process is so protected that you would never...
I think you would only be able to find them if they willingly put their DNA onto a DNA ancestry thing.
Which is what he did. did.
Which is what he did. I don't know what the laws are in Australia, but I know a lot, weirdly, about the laws in America because I've seen a lot of them on TikTok. But it is very hard to find out who your donor is if it's not an open donation.
I think in this situation, it's okay, we'll let this slide because he's famous. Like, he's in the paper. His name is in media.
Yeah.
So when she searches him, she actually gets information about him.
Yeah.
Like, just a normal, regular Joe Blow, you're never going to find him.
You're never going to find that guy.
You're never going to find him. Absent father. Who doesn't have one? So she comes to find him because her mum has hit like a mass depression after losing her childhood sweetheart husband who's been sick for forever.
I'm just going to high school sweethearts together forever and then have a baby. I was crying the whole time.
Weeping.
I was like,
Weeping.
As someone who has a high school sweetheart, which I don't really like that term because it feels like it's infantilizing, but still.
I think it's a flex.
Yeah, it gripped me in my soul.
I love it.
Continue.
She comes to find him because she's like, my mum needs help. She needs to go be with professionals right now, but also I have no living relatives. And if that happens, I'm going to get put into the foster system.
She's so much older than she needs to be. She's more mature than she needs to be.
Which, kids with trauma, and that's on that. So she comes to find him and she's like, hey, you're my dad. And he is not a shithouse person. So he's like, great, how do I help?
Oh, straight away too.
Awesome. Yeah, he
Which,
was like, this is so confronting and this is all really fucked, but like, what am I meant to do? Turn her away? No.
There's a kid that needs my help, so I'm going to help them.
And a woman who's now lost her husband and is just depressed and like all the things. So he immediately is like, great, I'm going to help her. We don't get like full details on that situation, but she ends up going to stay, I guess, in a hospital.
I think it's like a
clinic
rehab
or
clinic, yeah.
And Cora, who's 12, comes to live with him. Craziness. And at the same time, Rosie's back in town.
Rosie's home.
Rosie's home. My favorite is I quoted a highlight from the story, and then the note was, he's not like other rich guys, because they're talking about how West is like, they wrote this article about you and they called you the world's hottest eligible billionaire, blah, blah, whatever. And he's like, oh my God, ew. And he's like, you didn't even pose for the photo. And he's like, no, that's embarrassing.
I don't like getting my photo taken.
And I didn't give a comment. And he was like, okay, what was the comment? This ought to be good. He's like, I told them I'm barely a billionaire and just happen to be more attractive than the 2,500 other people on the list. They want to write an article about the least interesting aspect of my life. So no comment, because this accomplishment doesn't deserve one. Conventionally handsome rich guy says no fucking thank you. He's not like other rich guys.
Oh my God.
And then West is just giving us ultimate fan service because he makes a comment of, I'm the sunshine to your grumpy.
Yes.
And he's like, what is that? And he's like, it's a thing in romance books. It's
I love that West gets it. And then Rosie's back in town.
I think we have the same thing highlighted probably.
And the thing with Rosie and Ford's friendship or relationship or whatever you want to call it is that it's always been like banter and like flirty, hate each other, silly, goofy.
Like teenagers,
yeah,
like putting shit on each other.
Yeah.
Also, this is her brother's best friend.
So both of them thought that this is not a thing, you know, we're just going to be in each other's lives and we're going to be sassy to each other forever. But she comes back and he says, and now Rosie fucking Belmont has waltzed into the scene with her smart mouth and suspiciously watery eyes. And all I want to do is demand to know who hurt her so I can fix it. Speaking of characters who get sexually assaulted, Rosie got sexually assaulted and that's why she's back in town.
I was going to finish the quote.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Finish the quote.
And then he says, carrying a secret torch for this woman is nothing new, but it's been a decade. I never expected every teenage feeling to come barreling back in full force the minute I laid eyes on her again.
He's so down bad. He's so down bad!
And as he should be.
And this is what I'm saying about love interests that are so down bad for the main character. That's what I need. I'm done. I don't like aloofness. I want people to say exactly what they mean and to know exactly how they feel and to just be okay with that.
Bring back yearning.
We want people who yearn. I need you all to remember how to yearn for a minute.
Bring back like delusional being consumed by how much you love someone.
Yes.
Because everyone wants that, but then they're not doing the things that make that possible. They're like, I want a love that's all consuming, blah, 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 blah. But when they like someone, they're like, I can't text them. I texted them last. Like, fuck off.
Like,
send
the
the text.
Send the text. Stop ghosting
Get
people.
It together. So she gets sexually assaulted. Yeah. So Rosie is working in some job. She's climbed the ranks at this place for a long time. Like, she's finally in a place where she's like getting to where she wants to be slowly because it's one of those like corporate blah blah blah, so that takes time. She presents a thing. She ends up having a higher up than her want to talk to her about it afterwards, and then he gropes her in the workplace. And she's like, well, now I'm gonna have to fucking take you to HR. This sucks. And she goes home and she tells her partner, who works in the same industry, they studied together, and they've just like had this easy relationship, like friends to lovers, moved in together. Now they've been together for ages. She has so much love for him. She really likes him, but they're just like there. Like, they're just like roommates.
Yeah, the love has turned
Stagnant.
platonic.
Oh, that's way less harsh than what I said.
Stagnant. I think they just didn't realize that they weren't together anymore, but they were still together.
Yeah.
And then
It's
he goes
giving
and
codependency.
and she tells him that her boss groped her, and he tells her to forget about it. Number one, if any of your friends or partners comes to you and says that someone gropes them, assaults them, something heinous to them, do not fucking say, forget about it. The least you could do is, how do you feel about that? How does that make you feel? And then you can go from there. What the fuck?
Which she blatantly kind of says in response internally. I didn't want someone to like want to go fight him in my honor, but it would have been nice for him to have any kind of reaction, because at first he kind of like laughs it off.
He's
and then
looking at a thing on his phone.
And then he is like, oh, well, you know, you're so new to the company and I would hate to see all your like hard work not go to something because, you know, this is going to go a certain way. And like on one hand, I'm like, okay, I get his perspective of, I think there are a lot of people whose reactions to situations like that have been, this is the way the industry is. You have to look at those situations with a level of reality. Unfortunately, we know, especially like I've been in those situations, and you have to unfortunately weigh up whether it's worth the prospect of losing your employment or your position or your reputation, because the higher ups who are meant to be putting in the boundaries aren't doing it. So you either have to kick up enough fuss and hope that it goes your way or let it go.
But I think the worst thing about his reaction is that everything he said is already what that little voice in her said.
If he'd brought up those things as like a, this is fucked because this is how it's probably going to go down.
Yeah.
But his first reaction was, oh, I don't think you should tell anyone. Instead of like, what the actual fuck, allow me to go kill this man. Not a great reaction. Very shit. Not good times. But also from what she describes, he's very much becoming indoctrinated into the boys club anyway. So he's going along with all those superiors who are doing the same shit, and he's trying not to fuck up his position as being potentially part of that in his life.
Whatever his name is, I can't remember his name. Ryan, you're boring.
Boring. And he is boring. Every step of the way, he's boring. Stagnant, shitty, boring relationship. So she ends up moving home. She ends up quitting her job. Well, she gets fired, actually. They fire her.
Yeah, because she goes to tell HR and he's
already got there first.
Yeah, the guy's already said it's easier to get rid of her than to deal with
get rid of him. So she gets fired. She ends up moving back home. She shows up at her brother's house and she's like, I live here now. And realizes that she needs a job. So she immediately tells Ford, I have a great business proposition for you that you're not going to be able to say no to. And he's like, all right, let's hear it. And she tells him that she's going to become his personal assistant, secretary, like going to help him with all the things because he's doing this huge fucking business venture on his own. And now he has a surprise child. And he is immediately like, okay. And she's like, I thought you were going to fight me on this. And he was like, you just said I said I couldn't say no. And she says, I thought you'd be a dick and fight me on it anyway. And he's like, when have I ever said no to you? And then for the rest of the book, we get examples of, because they start going down memory lane of their relationship, of all of the points of like actual connection they've had. There's a day when he comes and picks her up from a party after some guy cheats on her, and he drives her home and she's writing in her journal and she throws the journal out the window. And he goes back unbeknownst to her and gets the journal and keeps it so that one day he can give it back to her. And this is what, like 10 years ago. And she was like, why didn't you just give it to my brother? And he was like, because I didn't want anyone to read it. He didn't read it either. He was like, because I didn't think you'd want people reading it. He's so respectful and it's so hot. In that moment, she's writing about it and she says, because she ends up starting like ripping pages out of the journal to give to him of these experiences that they're having that relate to what's going on in their lives now. And she has in it that it's 20 minutes from his house and he got here in 10, so he must have been out anyway, so I feel less bad about getting him to come and get me. And in the end, he's like, I was home. I broke every law to get to you. And I was like...
And this is what we're talking about.
Screaming.
This is what we want. Oh my gosh. Another thing he says about it, she's the sun. The rest of us are just dumb rocks orbiting her. And then things start getting tension filled and a little sexy.
But also still respectful. Even when the tension starts of them both being like, wow, we're very hot. We like each other's faces. There's a moment where they have like a campfire with the kid and they're having a little moment and they're staring at each other and she says to him, are you single? And he says, yes, are you? And she's not broken things off with Ryan at this point.
But
she's like, this is done. Yeah. She's been trying to actively see him so they can have a breakup and he's literally just not making time for her. She was like, hey, I'd love to see you because she wants to have a breakup. And he was like, oh, I'll see if I can fit you into my calendar next month. It's a really busy month.
And that's telling you everything you need to know.
Break up with him through text. Call him, break it off, bye.
She's like, sorry, babe, this is over.
Heinous. When he says it back to her, she says, I don't know. Because she knows it's done, but she says it'd be unfair to tell him that when I haven't even told Ryan that, even though I know it. She's a good person.
She's truly better than us all.
Truly. Because then he says, the next time I ask you that, the answer better be yes, and walks away.
He also grabs her ponytail
He does
when he
that.
says that.
He does do that. It's a lot. Everything is so stressful. Oh my God. But it's just like such a beautiful time to watch people who have years and years and years of friendship and knowledge of each other, and they share each other's family and community, and them just falling for each other is so nice. Like, I don't think that's a love story you see a lot. It's like complete strangers and then they fall in love against all odds, instead of, oh, this genuinely makes sense.
That like these two people
Yeah.
who know literally nearly everything about each other. Everyone around them knew
Could
that
see
they
it.
loved each other.
Literally, when she
Yeah.
rocks up to the house to talk to her parents, and he and Cora come with her, and the parents are like, we always knew this would happen, and they were like,
We're
wait,
just
what
here
would
to chat to
happen?
you.
I'm here to tell you that I quit my job. Hello, what's going on?
I was going to say when they finally get together and Ford tells West and he's like, we
No
knew
shit.
this.
Yeah.
Wow,
Which, like,
crazy.
and thank God.
Yeah.
Finally, a brother who's like, yeah, duh. And not like, it's my sister.
It's my
No
sister.
shit. The other beautiful things that he says about her that I'm kicking and screaming my feet at. We really are right back to where we were as teenagers in a matter of minutes. As in, she's still funny and beautiful and completely off limits, and I still feel transported back to the dumbstruck boy who's awkward around her. Shut up. Also, more not like other billionaires quotes of, I find that when a person's obsession with money outweighs their commitment to integrity, I no longer want to spend my time around them.
And that's all we needed to hear,
Yeah.
honestly.
But I think the thing that is really cute about the fact that they start seeing each other at that time again is they're both in a place of being like, what the fuck is going on in my life? And that's a really wholesome place to be in with somebody else who's also in that, because like we were saying, she has that job and then it falls through and then it's all shit. And she's saying about it because she was talking about how it feels like she won because she got everything she wanted. And she said, I question why winning didn't bring me greater satisfaction. I keep trying to convince myself I needed time to adjust to the way winning felt. After all, I'd finally gotten what I thought I wanted. And oh my God, isn't that just the realest, most adult shit? Which, first of all, in this book, 29, 32. Thank you for having actual adults in a book.
Truly.
And adults going through a period of their life where they're like, what the fuck do I do now? Because we're all told that we're meant to know by like fucking 21 and be married and have kids and the career that we want and all of those things. And this experience, especially as somebody who grew up in a country town and then was like, I'm just dreaming of leaving my country town and dreams of the big city, la 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 la. That is so fucking real.
Yeah.
To think that you're going to have this career that you work towards and that you want, and once you get there, it's not making you happy. And there's so much weird shame around just doing the thing that makes you happy instead.
It's about finding what it is that makes you happy. And also, reinvent yourself as many times as you want. Who cares how old you are?
My chunks of meat on a rock.
Yeah, it's not that big of a deal, babes.
that big of a
Like, just keep going.
And it's a really like humbling reminder. We're literally just here to be happy and to do what we can to make sure that other people have an equal chance at that happiness. So who gives a fuck? Especially working in like the arts and working in spaces where so many people that I work with are after fame and notoriety, and they want to be adored by people for what they do and to achieve all of these huge, great things. And that's great. That's great. Love that for you. Go off. But what about when you get there and you've got no one? I think we often, in the pursuit of our big career goals or things like that, we lose the things that actually make life worth living. Fuck, this got deep. Oh my God.
We're getting into it here on the podcast.
You lose like the simple things that bring you joy, and then there's almost this shame in like still being in pursuit of those goals, especially to other people who are still caught up in that. Like, I think about one of our best friends has been working in film for years and years and years, and film work is fucked.
Yeah.
So shit, so horrific, so awful. Really hard to maintain any kind of life, any kind of health, especially if you're somebody who has health issues. And they recently made the decision that they didn't want to keep doing that.
And for other people, they'd be like,
Happiness.
why? Oh, the film industry, it's so beautiful, so great, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I just want to survive. I want to be able to be happy.
I just want to be well and be happy.
Yeah.
And even like touring the way that I have been has put this into perspective for me so much, because as a kid, all I ever wanted was to have an exciting career that I loved and to get to travel and do all these cool things and work on these high budget shows. And now I'm there, and I spend majority of the time that I'm there wishing I could take a few days off to just come sit in a house with my friends and my family.
And do nothing.
Like, if the choice was I could do this for the rest of my life with no questions, no queries, every time I took on a new show, I would make more and more money money, but I would never have a girls' trip away for a weekend like we did for your hens.
Yeah.
Or I'd never get to be there for my nieces and nephews' birthdays. I'd be like, fuck this job. No,
Yeah.
absolutely not.
It starts to take a toll.
Because once you get the thing you think you want, you realize the things that are actually important.
Yeah.
Hopefully we get there before that. But that's where they're at in this
Yeah.
book. And they're both kind of discovering that, which I think is really nice for them to go through together. And it was just so nice to see realistic adult characters going through real life adult things. Not just like the chosen one trying to fight for the future of their kingdom. Which
For
we
once,
also love.
please.
We also love.
Because I think our generation, I say our, maybe we're in different generations, who's to know. Our generation, we have this thing about monetizing the things that we love doing. And
here comes a rant.
and here it is. I'll let you rant about this in a second because I started out in theatre. Like I studied theatre because I loved it. I just loved performing and I loved being on stage. But once it started to be like a business thing and I had to, you know, go to auditions and do all these things, I realized that I didn't actually want to do that in like a job way. I just really enjoyed it. Like I enjoyed being in front of people and I enjoyed performing. I didn't actually even enjoy being the center of attention or performing as the main character. I liked being the side character and
They're all better.
doing my little song and then fucking off. Like I just wanted to like do it for the fun of it. And that's why getting into being a celebrant, I found that I could still do the things that I love, like script writing, writing ceremonies and performing in front of people, doing the actual ceremony and realizing it's not about me. I get to do my fun little thing, but it's the focus is all on someone else. It's about finding the thing you want to do, but you don't have to monetize every single thing that you love. You can keep things for yourself as well.
I'm sure at first when you were going through the process of figuring that out, that there was probably a part of you that was like, everyone else is doing auditions and asking me what I'm doing and they're all like booking shows and I don't really care anymore. And like there's a weird like, oh no, I'm just doing this. And they're like, oh.
Like, and at the time I was working in retail and they were like, oh, so you're just in retail. And I'm like, yeah, babe, I get to go home and not think about the job when I go home. I get to just go home and no one, who cares?
Yeah. And when you're younger and you've not been a working adult person, the only way that I could see working is I saw like people who loved their job and people who hated the job they did and they just lived for the weekend. Like they were going through 5 days out of their week to have 2 days where they actually were enjoying their lives. So my goal was always, I want to work a job that makes me happy while I'm at work. That was the goal. And then I found, which this links into the things that you don't have to monetize everything that you love. I used to perform. That was how I got into the industry. I wasn't like 10, like, oh, and a sound engineer. I had no fucking idea what that was. But I loved doing shows. I did musicals in school. I was writing music and performing music with my friends. I had little bands and stuff when I was growing up. Like I was always a singer and I was always performing in some capacity. But I didn't want to monetize it. When it came to that point, like you were saying, of being like, and then you need to do this and you need to do this and you need to do this. And like some people are fucking amazing at that and it's super easy for them. And those are the people that we see thriving in those places. And that's for them. Go off. But when I found backstage work where it just clicked and I was happy there and I was still getting all the things that I loved out of the situation and I stuck with that. But for so many years, it was always performing. It was always singing, especially singing and writing music. And I had this weird moment when I was in Adelaide because we were at a gig and somebody was covering some song. So we were all singing along and someone in the cast that I work with turned to me and they were like, I didn't know you could sing. It just blew my mind because I was like, being a singer has been such a huge part of my identity for my whole life. And everyone close to me or family or even friends and acquaintances from like 5 years ago before I got so busy in this job knows that. Like they've all been going to my gigs and they all saw me perform and like all of these things. To have someone be like, oh, I didn't know that you did that.
It's crazy.
It blew my mind. But I was also like, singing is so special to me now because it is the only thing in my life that I haven't monetized or made something full of expectations. Even reading now is something that because of the way we've trying to share it with people is something that I have to put in work for or do in a certain way or there's expectations around it. Singing is the only thing in my life now that I only do for myself. There's no pressure. There's no expectation. I just do it because it's something I love, which is very bizarre.
That should be completely okay. I'm sure you've had people as well, because this has happened to me, where when people hear you sing and they go, oh my God, why don't you do anything with that? I'm like, I am doing something with it. I'm just doing what I like to do with it.
Did you not see Snow White?
Yeah.
The birds and I are popping off.
We're just singing.
I feel like every now and then I go through these moments of pressure to be like, oh, I should do something with that because I could.
But like, why?
But why?
So like, do what you
Maybe
wanna
we're just
do.
getting old. Maybe this is being in
Yeah.
your mid to late 20s. Of like realizing that everything we've been told about what our lives are meant to look like is
Oh, yeah.
bullshit.
There's so many. Look, this is a rant. We could go on
We've gone so
forever.
far away from the book. But
We're
this is
so
what
far away,
happens
but we're chatting.
when you read romance because it's based off real life.
You can put yourself in the scenarios. But I feel like there are so many things that I thought were important as a young person, late teens, early 20s, that I look back and I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, I thought that I had to go to university and then I
That's
had
a
to get a
huge one.
degree.
Yeah.
And what do I have out of that? Debt.
Mm.
Like, there's so many other avenues that I feel like young people can explore now, like probably more than they were, back in the day, whatever. But you're just figuring it out. And then you get to the point where you realize your parents, they're just fucking figuring it
They're
out.
still figuring it
Yeah.
out. Like every step of the
Yeah.
way, every adult we've ever seen has been going,
Yeah.
okay.
Speaking of, my mum got a tattoo the other day.
Hey, it's me again. As you can probably tell, I love the hell out of a good story. Whether it's a book, a play, a movie, or even my best friends telling me their wildest dreams. I've seen so many ways to wed, and I love them all because your ceremony is the perfect place to have your story heard. So if you're looking for someone who won't focus too hard on tradition and will let your authentic self shine, I'm the celebrant for you. I can't wait to hear your love story and help you tell it. To get in touch or find out more, head to my website www.loveburncelebrancy.com.au or my Instagram loveburns.celebrancy, and all of that information will be available for you at Girls on Tour.
You get to that point where you start seeing your parents as people. You can get to the point where you're like, oh, I can understand why you acted the way you acted when I was growing up. Or you can go, why did you act the way that you did when I was growing up? Like, yes, you were an adult and you were figuring it out, but I have the perspective now that you should have had. Do you know what I mean?
I think it either, now we're getting into parents, damn. I think it gives you a perspective to either understand the ways that you were let down by a parent or to be even more appreciative of the way that somebody's loved you. Because being an adult is fucking hard. I'm baby. I'm only responsible for myself. I am the
Truly.
only responsibility in my life.
I'm
And I
barely
also,
responsible for myself.
literally, I'm the only person I have to worry about. I work a job that is far more betterer, that is way better pay than what
Yeah.
my mum was getting when she was raising me. And I still struggle. So how in the fuck, like I know that I grew up in Orange and I'm currently living in Sydney and other cities, but where, how, what?
It's crazy.
My brother has 2 kids. My sister-in-law and I are the same age.
Yeah.
She is a mother to 2 children.
Truly.
And I am just a baby.
I
Like
think about
how
this-
are they doing it?
Like, my sister had my 2 nieces before she was my age. And I'm now my age now, and I'm like, I get overstimulated. I can't do things if someone's looking at me. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah, my sister had 3 by my
Oh
age.
my god, the sun is just
Oh,
popping
this
off
is
in
your
my face right now.
moment.
Okay. Welcome. This is just about me, and I'm getting fucking roasted by the sun. Excuse me.
But these are the things that I love about, I never used to be someone who read contemporary, real life. The closest I got was urban fantasy of like magic systems, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. You're in situations where the conflicts and the issues are never going to go through. I'm never going to accidentally want to sleep with my brother and be a shadow hunter, you know what I mean?
You paused for so long before you said Shadowhunter. And I was like, I forgot that series existed. And I was like, and where are we going with that?
Like, I want to come with you and support you on this.
I want to hear you. I want to hear you so bad, but I don't know. Oh my god.
They're like, I'm never going to have the fate of a whole kingdom resting on my shoulders. I'm never
Truly.
going to be the long lost queen of a downtrodden kingdom who's about to take over, who's also secretly a mythical creature. Like, I'm never going to have those things.
I wish that for you, though. I truly
I
do
don't.
wish that for you. Like,
How
but imagine being
exhausting.
like
I'm just trying to get a solid 8 hours every night. I don't have time for that. Oh my God.
I'm barely getting 6 at this point.
Honestly.
Like,
Like, I just want to bend down without going, "Ooh," you know?
I just want to bend down. That would be wonderful. I want to be able to touch my toes while standing.
Overrated. I'm never going to be forced to become a dragon rider when I've been training my whole life to be a scribe by my potentially evil mother because my dad's dead. Like, that's never going to be my life.
Yeah.
But I am maybe going to be 29 years old in a few years, a couple years, going, what the fuck am I
Yeah.
doing with my life?
Yeah.
And how do I let go of all of the things that I have told myself and that I've been told are important to just have no shame in choosing my own happiness, no matter what that looks like.
I think it's the beginning of this book.
And fall in love with my
And
childhood best friend.
Let me just fall in love with my childhood best friend. Can I say it's a really good idea to do that? This book literally, it begins like the dedication at the beginning of this book to bring it back is for all the women who figured out that good enough isn't actually enough. And for those who are still looking for more, it's out there, you'll find it. And if not, don't worry, there's always Ford Grant.
Who's
Yes.
that?
Elsie.
Who's that?
Do you know what? I will say, now bringing back to the book and we'll stop being philosophical for 2 minutes.
One of my last highlights for the book is I've really got to stop pulling this girl's hair. So
Ooh.
let's bring it on back.
Let's bring it on back. What does he look like to you? Because I could never figure it out in my brain. I couldn't put a person on him.
Do you want to know what he looks like to me?
Yes. He needs to be like gruff and country, but also like be able to fit into like a city vibe.
I was purely just thinking of the
Show it to me.
music producer
Show it to
element and the music things element. And I know that she describes Ford as being buff. Like, I know that because it's Elsie Silver and she loves a
She
thick
loves a
man.
big man. Some thick.
I know that. In my heart, he looks like Brandon Boyd, the singer of Incubus.
Show me right now. Okay. And I'm with it.
And this man has been a fine wine. Because tell me that wasn't a guy who made a music
Wow.
streaming service and then a bar. Like,
Truly.
tell me. Tell me. And then became like an oops dad and was like, oh, well, I'm just going to make the most out of it, la la la. But then also we have to think about the country daddy element of it.
I think you could just put a little beard on him and it's good to go.
Yeah.
Is he clean shaven? I don't know. Most like love interests for me have beards and long hair. I wonder why. But Ford's like how old is he? How old? How tall is he? Like 6 foot.
A million because...
A billion, 6'9" or some shit.
Oh, I think he's
6'7"?
6'3". Because
6'3".
he talks about it. And when they go to the bowling tournament, he meets Too Tall.
Too tall.
And he's like, and this guy towers over me, which at 6'3" is not something that I experience very often. Okay. Country daddy. He's meant to be tall. But also he's not country. He's from a music family and they had a country house.
Oh, so real.
You know?
Real. Maybe
Like-
I'm thinking of West. West is country.
West is country boy.
Which I'm
Also, she describes him growing up as like a gangly, awkward, wore glasses,
Need
was
to
a bit
figure this out.
scruffy. I imagined him as an awkward music kid, not as a country boy.
the Rolodex of people we know.
But maybe I'm just imagining what I want.
Yeah, I think we are imagining what we want. Do you know who it could be?
Matthew Gray Gubler.
He's way too small. What?
Matthew Lillard.
Oh my God. And let me tell you right now, hot.
Skeet Ulrich.
And we've done it today. It needs to be someone who could be rock and roll but looks good in a pair of blue jeans.
And the list is short. As someone who makes the list, like it's a But it's always so interesting the way that love interests in these books are depicted. Why is everyone muscular? Let's talk about that.
And let's talk about that for a second because I love a bit of chub. Give me a bit of like, let me just grab onto it. Like, hello?
You know what I realized I love as I grew up? I love someone who has a body that looks like they enjoy their life.
Yes.
Whether that means you eat whatever the fuck you want, or you look after yourself because you want to live a long time,
Yeah.
or you have muscles from doing the things that you love.
Incidental
Hot.
muscles. Like muscles from
Yeah.
just living,
Yeah.
not from going
Like
to
you've
the
got
gym 24/7.
really fucking hot forearms because you're a drummer. You've got absolutely ridiculous fucking biceps because you do something with biceps. Like those things,
Yeah.
hot. But never have I been like, I really want someone with...
washboard abs.
When I see that, I go, you're never going to eat nuggets in bed with me
Yeah.
at 4 a.m. And that is a staple of what I need.
And if you're not going to do that, what's the purpose of you? Truly. And also, I'm a bit chubby, so why do I want to be like next to someone with washboard abs that's like going to the gym 24/7? I'm like, no.
Like, if that's your life, go off.
Live
If
your
it makes,
best-
if
yeah.
doing that makes you happy,
If it
I'd
makes
be
you
like, I
happy.
don't care. Because you know what's hot as an adult? And let's get down to it. I don't care what you look like. I don't care what your interests are. I care about if you are happy with your own life. Are you happy with yourself? Are you happy with your friends? Are you happy with your job? I don't give a fuck what they are as long as you love them, because that is the groundwork for someone living a happy life. If you look a certain way but you fucking hate yourself, and you work a job that you passionately hate, and you have all these shitty people around you that you don't like, that is not going to do anything other than make our relationship go to shit at some point.
So real. Be happy. Live your dreams. What
Lizzie
other slogans
McGuire
can I say?
said, hey now, this is what dreams are made of.
Let it happen.
Let it happen.
happen for you.
Let it happen.
I just thought of someone. He's a bit old.
Love it.
But
Even better.
when he's younger, Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Joe Manganiello.
Ladies and gentlemen, she's done it. She's
He's
truly
tall.
done. Especially in the True Blood era.
I was thinking that. I'll
Yeah,
say that's exactly what I'm thinking about. Yeah. Could be country. Could be city. Very strong, rugged, tall man. But like fucking nerd.
Yes.
And let's bring back being hot and being a nerd. And we'd like to thank Joe. We'd like to thank Henry Cavill.
As someone who is hot and is a nerd, as someone who's also on that list, I really do appreciate other people.
Do you know why nerds are hot though? Is because
I've
they
got a
have
list.
passion. They have a passion.
And they also have little like
They have no shame.
hyperfixation.
And they're
that's it,
autistic.
hey. And they're autistic. They have special interests and will bring you trinkets as offerings.
Truly.
It's the having things that you love so much. Because people who are not nerds, I don't understand. Because you've never loved something enough that you became obsessed with it.
Yes.
How am I meant to expect you to become obsessed with me?
And how am I supposed to know your soul if I can't read up on it?
Huge.
You know what I mean? Back to the book.
And back to the book. Also, the fact that they work together, it did a lot of things to
And
me.
here it is. I am a true believer of the age-old saying of don't shit where you eat.
But
But
I think that applies when you are working in large companies.
Yeah.
When you're working in large companies and like existing stressful work positions you step
Mhm.
into where there's clear power imbalances. But when it comes down to small business.
yeah, when the power imbalance is where I have an issue.
Yeah.
When it's like your boss and you've never met each other before and blah blah. That's where I'm a bit like.
But
yeah.
in this situation specifically, I would not flinch to be hired by my brother's best friend. Family friends?
Yeah.
Doing business with family is also a tricky time. But in the community they're in, everyone works for their families. They all work on a farm together. They all
normal.
own a family business. Like when you break down business to that level, I think it only makes sense that you trust the people you love
Yeah.
with your passion baby.
My passion,
Like,
baby.
Matt comes and helps you at weddings. You have other sound engineers in your life who can lift over 8 kilos. I'm right here.
I am right here.
Hello.
Let me come to a wedding.
But like having the people you love invest in the thing that you're so passionate about
Yeah.
makes it only even more special. When I open my venue soon,
Put it-
soonish,
This is it.
I will make everyone I love work there. First of all, because I want them to have the freedom to then be able to do whatever the fuck else they want to do. But also because I don't want random people touching
I don't want them
the
in
thing.
my business.
I don't want them in my business.
Yeah. There is something so nice about sharing something that you're so passionate about with someone and who is going to understand what you mean when you do something
Yeah.
or when you say something. They're going to understand exactly where you're coming from. So when you are in those more stressful moments and you know, you might be stressed and you might be a bit more harsh than usual, that person knows you. So they're like, you're just going through it.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. So that is nice.
Because at the end of the day, life is all about the community of people you share it with. And that is where Elsie pops her pussy.
She's all about
Because
community.
every single story she does, every little like series that she's done, which I'm really excited to see what she does with the rest
Yeah.
of the characters in this one. Every time you read a book, you get a deeper sense of the community that they live in, who love each other and care about each other and go through life together. And that is that's what it's fucking about.
That's what it's about, babe.
That's what it's about. Also, he's really hot.
He's really hot. And what he does to the bad guy, like the Stan, instead of going
Okay.
and beating him up or, you know, publicly slandering him, he's like, you know what I'm going to use my billions and billions of dollars for? Revenge. Hot.
And let this be a lesson on having privilege is not something that you can get rid of sometimes.
Yeah.
I can't choose to not be born with all the privileges that I was born for because I didn't deserve them or earn them in any way.
Truly.
It was just the luck of the draw. The very least you can therefore do is weaponize your privilege.
Correct.
And he weaponizes his wealth to fuck this guy over. I would love for someone to ruin the life of the men who've wronged me.
Yes. And I would do that for you. I've tried to do that.
They do it themselves.
But this book, yes.
Yeah. Huge fan. If you're a romance reader, let us know your favorites. If you don't ever want to do a romance again, also let us know. Maybe we'll throw in some romances every now and then. Who knows? Who can be sure?
Who's to know?
Who is to know?
This was very tame on the spicy scene
Yeah.
side. I feel like this was quite tame.
We're not about to bust out like a HD Carlton fucking Haunting Adeline book wreck. Don't you worry. Like, I'm still hyper aware of the fact that we do have younger people who read the book
Yes.
club or who are
And
like,
this
and
is
like,
a public forum.
we're
Yeah.
adults.
Yeah.
You do what you want to do. If you're a teenager who is watching and coming along, if you're the parent of a teenager who's watching
That's
and coming
not our
along,
business.
that's not on us.
That's between you and
That's
whoever.
between you and the devil. I don't know.
Whoever you.
I think there's also something really nice about 18-year-old me could be given the advice of two more mature women
people.
of these are the kind of relationships that are actually going to benefit your life.
Yeah.
Learn from our mistakes. Then that would have been fucking invaluable to me.
Truly.
So, you know,
Ah.
girlhood is
oh.
forever.
And that's on that. Oh, dual POV, popping their pussy, doing all the
If you haven't already shared them, we need to hear your thoughts on this month's book. In order to have spoiler-free chats about the books that we're reading, we are using the book club app Fable. It's free, it's quick and easy to make an account and keep up to date with the Girls on Tour book club. There are 2 separate book clubs, one for the non-fiction book and one for the fiction books. Make sure you head over to our Instagram, TikTok and YouTube page at the start of every month to see what book is coming next. Thank you for listening and thank you for watching if you're watching this on YouTube.